All right, guys and gals, we're back again for another episode of Aerial Perspectives. I'm your host, Chris Ton, and today we have another special guest, Mr. Jonathan Woodham. So, Jonathan, great to have you on the show.
Good to be here.
Absolutely.
First time doing a podcast, so must be interesting.
Love to hear that. Well, I've got a little brief intro about you, and then we'll dive right in. Of course, joining us today is Jonathan Woodham, UAS Manager at the Alabama Department of Transportation, where he's been pioneering drone operations since 2016. Jonathan played a key role in establishing Alabama DOT's UAS division and has led numerous projects with a focus on construction and environmental initiatives. He particularly enjoys the precision and hands-on skill of manual flying, which he puts to work in ADOT's diverse range of projects. Notably, he was part of the team that won the 2020 Civil and Structural Engineering Drone Video of the Year. Jonathan is guided by the motto, "There are two things you control, your attitude and your effort." So with that, again, welcome, Jonathan, and thank you so much for the time.
You're welcome. It's actually ALDOT.
Yes, thank you for that.
So there's each state has their own, FDOT, MDOT. There is an ADOT, but we go by ALDOT.
I'm guessing I was dropping a little love to Alaska in that case, maybe.
I can't remember which one is ADOT.
Yeah. Well,
I know we're ALDOT. So.
Well, no worries. And thank you again for being here. Obviously, I always like to kick off the show with a little bit of background on how you first got involved with drones. Where was kind of the first time you were exposed to a drone?
It was at a vegetation conference, of all things. My previous life at ALDOT, I was an agronomist, so I was involved in the vegetation management side of things. So anything that wasn't a bridge, concrete, or asphalt, we kind of dealt with the herbicide program, mowing program, that kind of stuff. So we were at a national convention in Roanoke, Virginia. I think it was late 2015. There was a speaker there who was talking about how his company was using drones for asset management. Guardrails, bridges, signs, that kind of stuff. And so I got home, I was talking to somebody in our front office, and I said, "Hey, I was at this conference. They were talking about this." He said, "Well, it's kind of interesting. Our director, Mr. Cooper, was at a conference not too long ago where somebody else was talking about this." And he came to me and said, maybe ALDOT needs to look into this to see if this is something that would be beneficial for us as a department. So early 2016, J.D. Darville, who was my boss, a guy named John Russell, and myself were kind of approached and asked if this is something that you would be interested in, starting, or see if this is a viable thing for us. So we had concurrent duties, 2016, where I was still doing agronomy stuff. And then when we had time, we would do drone stuff. It took about 3 years for us to get the positions done through state personnel, because there just wasn't anybody else, hey, we can't go look at another state or this other industry to see, hey, what are the qualifications for this position? So it was a really long process because of that. So it really took 3 years. And in January 2019, I officially became the UAS administrator, and drones was the only thing that I did. JD's was the administrator. Drones was the only thing that he did at that point in time.
Very cool. And was this something that at the time when y'all were at this conference, was it something small, big? Was it?
There were probably 300 people from across the country at this. And it was one of the larger asset management companies for
that was
DOT
using this
infrastructure that was starting to use. I think they were based out of Texas.
Okay.
And just kind of happened. I thought it was kind of neat and said something, and the big boss had said, "Hey, this is something we need to look at," and just kind of snowballed from there.
Did it become something that once you got home personally that you wanted to explore even further on the personal side, or did it say more of a work focus? What was
a little bit? Everybody goes and buys those cheap, $20 drones, and they end up get caught under the couch, or they fly away. And I was like, this is madness. I don't know that this is quite what I want to do. And then once you start getting into the industry, and back then it was the P4, so When you fly something that has GPS outside, it's a whole lot easier than a 19, $20 drone you bought at the middle of the mall kind of thing. And so once you start getting in there and realizing, hey, this isn't an impossible thing to do, it does become a lot more fun. It's like, maybe there is a career path here.
No, absolutely. Well, was it very much longer that you had a personal drone and and started to gain some experience beyond the indoor ones? Did you go to like the Phantom 4 and things of that nature or
No, it worked out to the point where I was getting enough flight time in
yeah,
at the office where I didn't necessarily need to go
I see.
out and and okay, what am I going to do this weekend to work on my skills? We were getting plenty of that at the office, and I was getting my fill at the office after a little while. We became so busy that the drones were pretty much my herbicide or my agronomist boss was like, "Hey, I know you got a lot of stuff doing here," so he took some things off of my plate, which allowed me to focus more on the drone side of things. So my cup was getting filled up at the office. I didn't feel like I needed to go out and
Yeah.
spend all weekend working on my skills and that kind of stuff.
No, that makes total sense. And just going over to the Pelican drone side of the business on our side, we were involved with Florida Department of Transportation on two larger projects in the area, just around that same time, about 2016 to 2019 window. They were redoing a section of I-10, and they were redoing the 3 Mile bridge between Gulf Breeze and Pensacola. And what was really neat about it was they were using these images to track not just the progress, but also kind of what's going on with risk mitigation, what's going on with certain weather aftermaths of if they've had a big storm run through, also where the supplies are. Are they in the right staging areas, and who's on site this day, who's not on
It's the
site this
equipment
day.
out there
Yes,
that
yes.
we're being charged for, kind of thing.
Exactly. And it quickly became so interesting to me that DOTs across the country would be looking at this technology to not just monitor progress, but to do so much more on volume metrics, getting into the risk mitigation, other things. Can you tell me a little bit more about how that kind of started when you guys started to dabble with the asset management, but how it grew into much more?
We found it kind of difficult because a lot of large organizations, established organizations, this is the way we've always done this. So why are we going to look at doing something else? The way we've done it in the past has worked for us. So we faced a little bit of a struggle on the beginning of that, but luckily we had all the backing in the world from the front office. And for a DOT type situation, if you don't have backing from the front office, it's going to be very difficult for you to be able to get a program like this started.
Yep.
So they're very instrumental in this is something we're going to do. This is something everyone needs to look at. And once you started doing some things for people and realized, hey, we're not trying to take your job away.
Yep.
And I had a bridge inspector tell me, you're not taking my job away from me. And I said, you're right. I don't want your job.
Yeah.
I want to help you do your job. I don't want to be a bridge inspector
Yeah.
because I don't want my name on that form if something happens.
Sure.
You have a need for pictures that you can't get to, call me.
Yep.
That's how I want to help you. But our big breakthrough, we were flying a project in Mobile 158, 98 corridor going to Mississippi state line.
Okay.
We were flying some stuff down there, and our stormwater coordinator for the Mobile region came and it's like, hey, what are y'all doing? And so we showed him. He goes, I see 3 things right now that the contractor needs to fix. I want you to fly all of my projects.
Yep.
And so he had 4 or 5 projects going on at that time. So every 6 weeks, he would have to go out and do an inspection. You either walk or drive that project. Well, if you're walking, this was a 7-8 mile project.
Yeah, it's
too
much.
It is too much. You're not going to be paying attention by halfway through. You're going to be like, I don't see anything, or riding down the road. But when you're 200 feet over the project looking down, you see everything.
Yeah.
And once he realized that that was going to be a great asset for him, he said, do everything that I've got. I want you to do it every 6 weeks. And we're like, okay. So we started talking to some of the other stormwater coordinators, and it just kind of snowballed from there. And I would say probably 80 to 85% of what we do is a construction, environmental, related project
Yeah.
because we've got so much going on for the state, and the environmental side of things is such a important aspect of what we're doing that for us to be able to go out there, we can fly something, and within an hour, they can have the information that they need. The software that we use, we can upload it, it processes it, and it sends them an email saying, hey, the panos for whatever project are available for viewing. They can get on there, look at it, and say, hey, we've got issues. We need to call a contractor. And we had one we flew that contractor called and said, hey, I'm out of rock. I need to buy some more rock. And the guy's like, no, you got bigger problems. You've got the wrong rock out there.
Oh,
He
no.
goes, no, I don't. He goes, I'm looking at the pictures from an hour ago.
You do.
I can tell
Yeah.
you've got the wrong rock out there. You need to pull all that rock up and get the right rock in there first.
Yeah.
But he didn't even have to travel to the project. He could look at everything from his office. So it's saving him time, saving the state time and money by not having people traveling all over looking at these projects.
Yeah.
The information came straight to him. So once those things started happening, they started talking to other people across the state saying, hey, these guys have really helped us out. You need to be using them.
Yep.
And then they would say, you know what, let's give them a try. And everybody who has been a naysayer on the front side has come around and said, hey, it is beneficial having you guys around. You're not going to take our jobs.
You're sounding like drone business experiences in a nutshell, from once they see it, it's such, how did I do this without it kind of moment of realization. It's interesting too. I feel like that's how ChatGPT in a way helped AI, just grow awareness wise so quickly. It's like, what do you mean? I just gave it 5 ingredients and it just gave me 50 recipes that I could make. It was a very eye-opening exposure moment. And in drones, when you take them to somebody's workplace and you show them either A, how we can be more efficient, B, in your case, how you just discovered 3 things right off the bat that helped this, person save money or catch it before it started going even further and more costly. It just continues on and on of benefits that folks see. And one that you may have touched on but didn't identify it directly is some of the imagery that we can see helps us see how the water runoff or the elevations change on the ground. So with environmental, for example, as you were saying, I'm guessing y'all can use that to say, hey, this isn't in the optimal, degree of tilt or whatever it may be for runoff. Is that something I'll use too?
Somewhat more than likely, what we're looking for, or the stormwater coordinators are looking for, is the sediment staying where it's supposed to be staying.
Gotcha.
So, are the best management practices of the hay bales or the silt fences, those kind of things, are those up and operational? Because if they're not,
that's a problem.
It's a major problem.
Yeah.
But you can also see that from the drone imagery, either with an ortho or panos, depending on the size of the project. We may do both. We also may do a photo plan that's looking upriver, downriver kind of thing. So they've got historical data from every time we've flown it, so they can scan or slide back and forth and say, okay, we got a big rain, nothing happened, we're looking good right here. Or, hey, we just flew this, there's mud outside the areas it's not supposed to be, y'all got issues. We don't get too much into the, hey, this is not correct. We let the experts on that do that. We just get them the information that they need to make that determination, which takes a lot of pressure off us because we're just going flying. We're not having to call somebody and saying, hey, you've got issues, or hey, we've got issues we need to go take care of.
And I imagine everybody appreciates that. Everybody's there to help. It's just now you've got better views.
Yeah, so. And sometimes the public's like, hey, what are y'all doing? Or, y'all, sir, I don't.
Yeah.
They just sent me to take pictures. Call this number if you've got any questions.
Yep.
A lot of times they're just curious about what's going on.
Always. It's flying around. It's doing fun stuff supposedly. But well, speaking of some of the, getting into the sideline usage, is there a favorite, drone mission that you were ever on, or just a fun one where you felt like, wow, that was a neat story, or wow, that was a neat experience where now I'm, able to, put that under my belt.
I wouldn't say this is a fun one, but a couple years ago when the tornadoes came through and literally destroyed the city of Selma,
Yeah.
we got a call, or my bureau chief came by my office. It's either Thursday afternoon or Friday morning and said, hey, the director has told the mayor that we can get out there and fly all the storm damage. Is that something we can do? It's like, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, give us a little bit of time to kind of get a game plan together. So it was Martin Luther King weekend right before that. So we went out Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. The only weekend and holiday I've ever worked for the DOT. And we flew from sun up to sundown, basically working 9, 10, 11 hours a day. There was 4 or 5 of us out there. So we were taking pictures, we were doing videos. We literally mapped the entire storm damage from city limits to city limits. And it was an eye-opening experience because you see the storm does not discriminate.
Nope.
You had the country club got leveled, and you had people who didn't have anything. They're both in the same boat.
Yeah.
You know, they don't have anything to move forward with. And so that was not a fun one, but that was one that really sticks out.
No, I know.
In my mind.
I can only imagine. I was deployed to Hurricane Michael after Panama City got just that basically Cat 5 direct hit over at Tyndall and everywhere else, and I saw major power lines down, high transmission, the ones you don't usually see down, the water towers down, train cars on their side, just absolute carnage. And it was just an eye opener to say the least. And, it's been one of those that I think you grow to appreciate, one, the situation, and two, how this technology can sometimes really provide a quick solution of, eyes in the sky of what's going on with the damage, or in some cases, it's reestablished communications. I know that AT&T, Verizon have some really cool solutions where they can put, where there was a damaged cell tower, they can put up a drone that's powered through a tethered line and a data line, and they're shooting out data for a mile radius and getting folks right back up and running.
So that was a tough one for our team. We've got a phenomenal team at ALDOT, and nobody complained.
Yeah.
You're not taking a break. You're not taking a lunch. You're just getting out there to get the job done. And we were able to get everything flown, processed, and delivered within a week.
Wow.
To the city engineer for Selma.
And that's another thing we don't talk about sometimes, is the level of imagery and how it does take a minute to sift through, especially mapping, getting it up there, geotagged, and then put into the hands of those that can better use it. Did you find that to be one of the larger footprints that you've done?
It's the second largest one we've done. So we were flying with a 42 megapixel camera.
Wow.
So as you know, the bigger the camera, the bigger the data. So we found that one image from a 42 megapixel camera is roughly 3 times larger than a 20 megapixel image that we take with one of our quadcopters after it's been through the processing side of things. So we would have one pilot and we'd have 3 or 4 VOs spread out watching everything. We got one guy whose only job is watching the airspace. Because you got people flying over in planes just wanting to look to see what's going on, and you're having to deconflict airspace. So you can't do anything like that without a good team. And we've been very fortunate at ALDOT to have a core group of guys who've been with us for a long time to really help out with that. But like you were saying, you don't realize how big stuff gets when you're dealing with a project that big. We had West Alabama Highway. They're 4-laning from Mobile all the way to Tuscaloosa. Most of that's been done. There's like a 75-mile stretch. It's not 4-lane. And they were having some issues with the survey, and they needed to see what all was out there. And so, okay, when do you need this done? And like, yesterday. So, okay. So the team loaded up. We went over there. There's another
another project. We would work from daylight to dark, and no complaints out of anybody on the team. But it ended up being, I think, if I remember correctly, 37,000 images. And once everything was processed, it was just under 4 trig of data.
Wow.
And then I walked it across the hall, and I was like, "Don't know how you want to open this."
Yeah.
but here's everything that you've asked for.
Yep.
So we were flying basically a 75-mile wide corridor that's 300 feet wide from Thomasville area, Alabama, up to just south of Tuscaloosa.
Wow. Well, that's something I'm sure those that got the imagery really appreciated, and obviously is probably even made its way over to some studies. I imagine y'all share some of this data with universities, or where it ended up.
I know some of the data got moved to, I think maybe Auburn or some
Yeah,
other
they got a big-
places. Got the stuff with Selma.
Yeah.
Some other people
Sure.
were able to get that. We can use that stuff for FEMA reimbursement
Yep.
as well. We fly all of our offices, properties across the state every year.
Yep.
In case we do have storms that come through, we can say for insurance purposes, hey, this is what it looked like before.
Absolutely.
And for FEMA, the UAS team was able to, I think it was around $4 million back from FEMA, because we were able to say, hey, this was a debris site. We took care of it. It's back to what it looked like before. So we found out that some of the paperwork may not have been done right, or the inspection may not have been done right, but we could go out there with the drone imagery and say, this is what it looks like.
This is my backup. Yeah.
And send it. So we do that once a year now as well.
I love that. I there's nothing better than drone imagery. Nothing really escapes the eye of the drone when it comes to backing up what's been done. Well, as far as drone missions go, in regards of those MacGyver moments, or those just interesting, wow, we powered through something really challenging today. Was there any other stories that kind of come to mind as a challenging one?
Bridges.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Bridges are fun.
But
They're the most technical, challenging things that we do. And the way ALDOT is set up, we go through 20 hours of training when you first come on board. It doesn't matter if you have 1 hour of flight time or 10,000 hours of flight time. You'll have 20 hours of in-field, on-the-sticks training with our training coordinators, Mike Kaiser, and there'll be some other guys as well that will take you out and gets you exposed to all the different types of projects we do. Projects may consist of one photo, or it could be 40,000 photos. It just depends on what's needed. We also have a bridge training class that you go through as well. We've got a group of instructors up in Huntsville called Energies. And they really helped us in the beginning of our program with a lot of our training and stuff. But they handle our bridge training class. So you also have a couple weeks of bridge training where you do have a final exam down on the Cochrane Bridge in Mobile.
Nice.
Which is fun at times. And when unfortunately I came real close to the bridge one time, and
that wind's real.
Something happened. That was I have a cross in my office now with a wreath on it due to the loss of the drone from that bridge. But us being able to take a drone that's 24 inches wide and stick it in a space that's 36 inches wide and be able to move it, take the pictures, get the information that's needed, is something that I think our whole team prides ourselves on, because you're in a GPS denied environment, you're in low light, you can't see the drone, you're relying on your spotter. You can see what's in front of you, but you can't really tell how far away you are from the girders. And
sure,
there's situations like over railroads that we may not have the ability to get our snooper trucks underneath because the bridge deck is too close to the railroad tracks, and it's not enough time to get the truck out when the train's coming. So we couldn't inspect those sections. So we went right around with the bridge inspectors on how can we do this, and so let's just put goggles on the bridge inspector. So the bridge inspectors can control the gimbal. He can take a picture or video by tapping on the side of the goggles.
Sure.
We're not the ones doing the inspection. He's still doing the inspection. We're just putting him in the position to be able to get his inspection
Yeah.
done. So those things are we all kind of like doing that. It's tricky. It's nerve wracking. You feel like you've run a marathon after 20 minutes.
Adrenaline's up, all of it.
In between the girders. But those are the ones that I really enjoy doing.
Well, that's really cool that y'all also are, sharing with those field experts, hey, here's the tools in my toolbox. Maybe you'd like to wear the goggles. You can take pictures. You can move the gimbal. It won't bother me flying, and now all of a sudden you've got some teamwork, which makes the dream work. And y'all are.
And we
knocking
try
it
to
out.
operate with a closed cockpit, so nobody's right over your shoulder saying, hey, go back.
Yeah.
They can be standing a few feet away from you. They're seeing the same thing you're doing. So
Love that.
if you do have to make a movement for some reason, you're not bumping into somebody, which then knocks your hand, which hits the joystick, which then sends you into the girder. So
Yep.
it's a safe way for us to be able to tackle a tricky situation. We had one that they had a crack on the girder that for them to be able to look at it, we got to shut a lane down on a major highway, get all the equipment out there,
Yep.
get underneath, look at the crack, get everything back up on top, open everything back up, and it was going to take them probably half a day to
Yeah.
be able to do all that. 5 minutes.
You know what's going on.
We put a spotter a mile down the track to let us know if a train is coming. That gives us time to, even if he's traveling 60 miles an hour, that gives us a minute to get out and clear the airspace. It literally took us 5 minutes to go get that picture. But we didn't have to disrupt traffic.
Yep.
And so we didn't have that safety issue there. So we were able to get in and take care of things safer and more efficient. And a lot of times efficiency isn't something that's talked about in the government circle, but the drones have allowed us to be incredibly efficient in situations like that.
I can only imagine. No, that's super cool to hear, and obviously encouraging to see that it's not just one area of benefit; it's multiple. One of the things also, that I'm sure some of our listeners are wondering is, let's say I'm interested in this area of mapping or construction or even Department of Transportation style of work. Where do you find some of the strong suits of where I might want to spend some time? Because I often talk about, the drone's just one chapter. What the drone's doing for your industry, whether it's photography or LiDAR or, a whale snot bot, it can range from all over the place. What are some of the additional strong suits that a young professional might want to beef up on if they were going into a drone UAS Department of Transportation?
For us,
career?
We don't necessarily care about how much experience you have. We're going to teach you, like we mentioned earlier, we've got the training for just regular flying and for bridge classes. But we're not necessarily worried about how much experience do you have. We want to know, are you teachable?
Yes.
Because we're going to teach you everything that we need you to know. We're going to tell you why we have to fly it that way. Because there may be certain situations with a property owner, or there may be a ceiling that we're having to deal with from the FAA. So we're going to teach you everything that we know, and teach you everything that we need you to know in order to fly this. We need you to be willing. We need you to be eager to learn and to be patient, because you're not going to come in the best of the. I mean, nobody at the DOT is the best drone pilot out there. We're all really good, and we all have things that are our strong suits that we may even like doing better than other things. But we need people who are willing to learn, willing to practice, be dedicated to their craft. Because the flying skills for what we want to do may be completely different for, say, like the motion picture industry.
Yeah.
We don't have a lot of fast moving shots where you're going after a car chase or something like that. We may have more of the technical side of things where you're getting 6 inches away from a structure or inside of a structure. So that's probably the biggest thing for us is willing to learn and being eager to get out there and just put the time in to become proficient at what we do.
No, that makes total sense. And I know it's always appreciated when we have a very learning friendly style of employee. It just helps all parties when You're a sponge and you're ready to soak it up.
And we have a wide variety of backgrounds on our team. JD Darwell is my boss. He's our program administrator. He's got a degree in criminal justice.
Wow.
And say early mid 90s, he's always been on the technology side of things at ALDOT. And Mike Heiser is another one of our UAS managers. He came from our forestry commission. Okay. He started their program, and we were able to poach him, get him over to us. Kyle Clifford, who is got a law enforcement background. We've got a guy named Aaron Lyons, who's Homeland Security, EMS background. Steve Brantley is one of our pilots. He's also our tech, because somebody's got to keep stuff up and running.
It's true.
He's got an IT background. We just hired 2 more pilots. They both have military backgrounds. Nice. Mine's in agriculture. So, you know, there's not necessarily one thing that just makes us as drone pilots what we do, make us the best at what we do, because everybody's coming from a different place. And I think that allows us as a team to be better, because you've got so many different situations that you're dealing with. Kyle, with the law enforcement, you know, he has to keep cool at all times. When we were talking before we started, we had a situation where he had a hard time controlling the drone due to interference. Well, he didn't freak out because of his training that he had in law enforcement. So everybody's background really plays into us being able to be a very effective team.
That's so cool too, that y'all have that. And it's, you know, you have to remind yourself how new drones are to these various industries that we're now seeing as a common tool in the toolbox. You know, do you find that there's bonus points for folks that have had manual pilot training? I mean, I know you mentioned that earlier, flying under the bridge, the GPS doesn't work.
Yes. Well, like we were talking about, most of our projects we're going to every 6 weeks. So we have autonomous flights set up, because the stormwater coordinators, whoever, is looking for the exact same thing on the projects. Well, what happens when that goes wrong? What happens when the drone doesn't do what it says it's supposed to do because of technology? You have to be able to take care of that piece of equipment and get it on the ground safely. So we do training all the time on manual flying, just even simple stuff. You go out and draw a box, draw a figure 8, do it backwards, those kind of things. So we're always working on manual flights, because a lot of times you can get complacent, because you go, you open the box, you do your drone check, make sure everything's good, you go through your work orders, anything changed, and then you start your project. And you're watching the ping pong go across the sky, and it's taking pictures, and it gets done, or my picture's there, let's upload them and move on to the next one. So it can be real easy to be complacent, and you have to be ready for when something doesn't go the way you want it to. So that's why we focus a lot on training in the manual flying of the drones.
I think it's a definite strong suit of skill set that is only going to benefit those that are interested in drone careers in general. It's a definite brownie points category. As long as you're teachable, I agree. That's the number one thing.
And just practice. Get out there and practice. It doesn't matter what you're flying. Stick time regardless of whether it's a bridge or stretch a roadway or, you know, some of the racing type stuff that y'all are doing. Anything like that is going to make you a better pilot in the long run. And I'd say document it as well.
Yes,
document your flight time, your flight hours. Is it daytime flights, nighttime flights? You know, all those things count. Because you don't want to be able to, or you don't want to have a situation where you got to go out at night. You've never had a flight at night. You can't see the drone as easily as you can. And we had a situation back during COVID. There was a girl that went missing, and JD and Mike got called out in the middle of the night to go help look for the drone. So Leah, our state troopers, have a helicopter with a LiDAR unit. So they would fly, but helicopter run out of fuel, they'd have to go refuel. JD and Mike would send the drone up and continue looking. Nice. And then when the helicopter came back, they would land. Helicopter would take back over. So just all of the training that you think that you might need, just go ahead and do it. It's going to be fun flying anyways. And just make sure you're documenting and recording that training, because when you do go apply for a job, if you lie and say, hey, I've got 350 hours worth of training or flight time, and then you can't even get the bird off the ground, it's going to tell on you. But if you can document it and say, hey, this is what I've got, then it's going to go a lot better for you in the long run.
Absolutely. If you've got that many hours, you can rest assured these employers will probably put you to the test pretty quick on proving some of that of what's on paper. So that's great advice. I love that. Any other just looking to the future in this sector of Department of Transportation of what y'all work on? Is there some stuff that y'all are looking forward to that might be around the corner, or some stuff that you're already looking to?
We have been testing LiDAR.
Yep.
We've tested, I think, 6 or 7 different units, and we've had our another group from our location,
GIS,
and some of our surveyors have been helping out with that, because we're looking for 1 to 2 centimeter accuracy to be able to do survey grade LiDAR flights, and you can't just take the salesman's word for it. You have to go out and
test it,
and put the time in to figure out which one is going to be best, and also what bird are we going to be using with that. So over the past year or so, we have been testing. So we've done that. Hopefully we'll have a decision next week on which sensor we're going to go with, and then we'll determine which bird we're going to put it on.
And that'll be used for that more volumetric surveying. Where are y'all going to maybe use some of that tech?
We might could use it for volumetrics. So we use our fixed wing, or not fixed wings, I'm sorry, our quadcopters for that. But a lot of our, I think, planning stages, construction, those kind of things, we can, it just opens up a whole new world for stuff. Because right now we're just dealing with photogrammetry and getting amazing results and are meeting the need. But with a LiDAR unit, we can just far and exceed what we're doing.
Oh yeah, and I imagine raw land in some cases, the vegetation, getting down to that ground level of detail and
I can show you the treetops, but the LiDAR can show you what's underneath the treetops.
Exactly. So I'm sure that's very helpful.
So we're excited about that. We've been looking at that for probably a little over a year now, and it's an expensive proposition. So we want to take our time and make sure that we're getting the right sensor for what ALDOT needs. One of the newest things we just got is we got a hydrographic survey vessel, so a boat.
Yeah.
And we've had some issues with a Little Lagoon Pass right there in Gulf Shores. We had to have a certain amount of flow that's coming through.
Okay.
We fly it every 6 weeks, but you can kind of tell what's going on from the imagery. It's fairly shallow, but with our boat, we plan to be able to map it out the same way you map out a drone. You put your points out there. Hey, this is what I want the imagery of, and it determines the most efficient way to do it. So it's got a single beam sonar unit on it, and it's just shoot pictures basically of the floor of what's underneath, and then we can process that, give that to whoever needs that information, and they can determine how they need to move forward with that.
That's really great. So ALDOT is not just the flying drones. We're now getting into the floating ones.
Exactly.
Any ground drones yet running around?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet. I don't know if we can get one of the robot dogs to come up there and run around with us, maybe, but nothing ground related yet. So we got the air and the water taken care of.
That's super cool. I know the pass you're referencing over in Gulf Shores, and that would be a really helpful tool, I'm sure, in certain conditions where either it's brackish or you can't quite see what's going on in trouble spots. This will tell you regardless of
it is. We have a great dive team, but some of these areas are just so murky. They say they can't see their hand in front of their face. So us being able to go out there and get the information without putting them in danger is another safety aspect for us as well.
Everybody wins. Well, super cool. Well, Jonathan, always like to close out with each guest on a topic relating back to our listeners that kind of comes down to the job side of this, which we've talked about a little bit of, but any other just last minute advice for those that are interested in coming into the drone space of work beyond even Department of Transportation?
Fly any and everything you can.
Yep.
We fly It can be anywhere from one picture to, like we said, up to 40,000 pictures. We do volumetrics or stockpiles for some of our district offices. Something like that saves days because we have two guys that go out. They have to shoot cross sections of the stockpiles. Then they got to go inside, do the math. But we can fly that in 20 minutes. Within an hour, we tell them what they have. One of the new things we're doing now is helping out with pavement assessment with some of our airports, and also vegetation on the approach and departures.
Yep.
So we can go out there and do take imagery with the drones and tell them, hey, these are certain trees you need to remove once we overlay their departure angles. They're not having to go out there trying to cut every tree.
Yep.
Hey, these 5 trees you need to remove. This is what your pavement looks like. We shoot videos. We should do a little bit of everything. So just go fly something.
Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't matter what it is. Get out there, go fly where you got 5 minutes or an all day event on a Saturday. Go do it. Just get out there and have fun.
I couldn't agree more. And log those hours and build that portfolio up.
Yep.
So, well, perfect. Well, Jonathan, thank you again for joining us on another episode here, and we greatly appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Enjoyed it.
Absolutely. That's a wrap.